yeah, beautifully.
So it's my What in the World this week. So I do need to say we have a guest on our show tonight. She will join us for the What in the World, and then she'll introduce herself when we go into the main topic. So my What in the World, ladies, is quite an eye-opener, aren't they always? This is regarding the inquest of Aisha Cleary, and I'm reading from inquest.org.uk. So Aisha Cleary was born during the night of the 26th of September, 2019. She was found dead on the morning of the 27th of September after her mother, a highly vulnerable 18-year-old caregiver even, gave birth alone in a prison cell in HMP Bronzefield in Ashford, Surrey. This is the largest women's prison in Europe. Now an inquest will open into her death after her mother persuaded the coroner to examine the circumstances of Aisha's death and whether any failures in the care provided to Aisha's mother or Aisha contributed to her death. The coroner will hear the evidence of expert pathologists and consultant obstetrician to determine whether Aisha was born alive or stillborn. So a little bit of background. Aisha's mother, now her name is not given. So she will be known as Aisha's mother throughout this. She was remanded to HMP Bronzefield on the 14th of August, 2019, arriving with a prison escort record stating that she was 6 months pregnant. On the 19th of August, she was told by social services that they would be seeking a court order to remove her child at birth. She did not engage consistently with maternity services. Now here comes the whatabouteries. Anyway, during the evening of the 26th of September, Aisha's mother went into labor. At around 8:07 p.m., she used the intercom in her cell to request medical attention. No nurse or ambulance was called, and no one checked on her. Aisha's mother pressed her cell bell again at around 8:32 p.m., but the call was not answered. At around 9:27 p.m. and 4:19 a.m., Aisha's mother's cell was checked by prison officers as part of a routine roll count, but on neither occasion was anything untoward noticed in her cell. At around 8:15 a.m., a prison officer did the morning unlock and did not notice that the cell had significant amounts of blood on the floor and the walls. At around 8:21 a.m., two prisoners alerted prison staff to blood in Aisha's mother's cell. A prison officer who then attended discovered that Aisha's mother had given birth during the night. Nurses attended and attempted to resuscitate Aisha without access to a pediatric resus equipment and called an ambulance. Around 9:03 a.m., paramedics confirmed that Aisha had died. So the inquest is planning to hear evidence from approximately 50 witnesses, 50, including social services, community and prison midwifery services, prison healthcare staff, officers, former prisoners, as well as expert evidence. So I'm not going to go into the bullet points as to what they're going to hear, but she gave birth alone, and it doesn't say here in the article, but when I first heard about it, she actually gnawed through the umbilical cord with her teeth to try and save the baby's life. And her baby died. So for me, I don't see why an inquest is needed. We clearly know what happened. People should be going to prison, preferably HMS Bronzefield too, for what they've done to her. So ladies, what are your thoughts? before I jump in. What are you thinking on this?
I'm struggling for words actually, Kay, with this. I'm so angry that this girl has been treated like this. I'm angry that the baby has died, and I'm kind of shocked. So I've got a few questions. I'm thinking, and I know I was saying earlier to you guys, I don't understand how, okay, for a start, she's 6 months pregnant. So
when she was remanded.
Exactly. So for a start, I don't feel that she should have been imprisoned anyway at 6 months. Something else should have been put in place. I'm sure there's something that could have been put in place. There is, I know there is, but they didn't want to. And secondly, I'm thinking, surely in a prison, you'd know when an inmate was due to give birth. It's pretty obvious when someone gets near enough to give birth. It's obvious. And if they knew she was 6 months gone, they're going to know when she's due. So they're deciding what to not pay attention to her when she's about to give birth. That in itself seems, that's where the negligence seems to have, I'm not sure about peaked. It was peaked when the baby wasn't found. Then you have these people coming in and out, doing these supposed checks. Now, I don't even think they probably did, because I'm sorry, but there's no way you could. I think the last check, did you say someone actually went into the cell or looked in and didn't see the blood? That's impossible. Yep. How big are prison cells? It's impossible.
Labour has a certain smell. Come on.
You couldn't not notice a baby had been born. I'm sorry, I just think it's ridiculous.
But
poor baby and poor mother.
The sound. What, does she just silently give birth and struggle by herself for however many hours? I'm thinking about my own experience of childbirth.
Yeah, exactly.
It was not a quiet experience.
No, it is not.
But I'm wondering if maybe there weren't the staff around. They said they made all these checks. I'm wondering whether there's people just couldn't be asked, or they were so short-staffed, there's prison couldn't be asked, or something like that. Because there's no way in hell, unless you're kind of blind and deaf, you could have missed that.
And yet it took 2 prisoners to alert them to blood in her cell.
Takes the mick, really, doesn't it?
I almost swore myself. I forgot to say, ladies, when I'm missing from that inquest report, is that the prison officers were given counselling for discovering her, but she herself was not given any counselling.
Before we even get to that,
God.
I just got to backtrack slightly. Okay, so at 6 months, you don't have to be showing. Some people have quite protruding stomachs, some less so. So perhaps she wasn't showing, but it's on her records that she's pregnant.
That's right.
So you would have thought that they would have monitored that. Okay, so let's just say the baby could have been premature. We don't know if it's full term or premature. Full term.
Wasn't premature.
So it's around about the time that she should be giving birth.
Oh, hang on. She arrived on the 14th of August, 6 months pregnant.
Right.
And then went into labor on the 26th of September. So maybe not quite full term.
Okay. But it's around about the time where they should be,
checking her, at least.
Checking her, and they're awaiting the arrival of this baby, right? Okay. So then she goes into labor and no one hears. The thing that struck me is that she actually did call for help.
Twice.
And that call was not answered.
Yep.
Not once, but twice. Now that in itself is negligent, because not only, if you're alerted to someone's cell, one would hope that somebody would be available to go. It's the point, isn't it? But giving her conditions, the fact that she was pregnant and about to give birth, it's even worse that her call wasn't answered. And then let's just say she gives birth. It's quite a noisy, difficult experience, because it must have been traumatic on her own.
Of course.
So then she probably called for help. All sorts. I know that prison, they do say that there's a shortage of staff and all that sort of stuff. I do get that, but this is extreme. This is like somebody falling over and bumping their head and went unnoticed. This is a woman giving birth.
That's right.
In a prison cell on her own.
Yep.
And then when you said she gnawed her way through the umbilical, honestly, words fail me, because
that's a mother that's desperate to save her baby.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we'd all have done that. We'd all have done. Let's be real, ladies. I'd have ignored that too because I love my baby and I wanted to survive.
Look at the length of time that she was left unchecked. So remind me of the time. So from the night.
So at 8:07 she called.
Right.
And 8:32 p.m. she called. Nobody answered. Around 9:27, so just over an hour after the first call. Apparently, prison officers checked.
They didn't. That's such a lie. They did not. They're lying. They're lying.
And they checked again at 4:19 a.m.
Which they didn't.
They said.
But they couldn't have.
They couldn't have checked. No.
Because you can't miss that.
You can't miss that. It's not like I fell over and broke my ankle and went, ooh.
Exactly.
You can't.
And at 8:15 a.m. again, yet another check. Staff have changed.
Did they
did not notice anything untoward,
Did they check with a blindfold on? Because
that's what I'm saying. They have sent a staff member that's blind and deaf or something.
Blind and deaf for sure.
Yeah.
I think they've got I think that they're actually quite rude to say that they checked. It'd be better if they said, you know what, we just didn't go.
We were negligent, we didn't bother checking.
Yeah. Please just say that. But to say that you checked when clearly you didn't.
You didn't.
Or you deliberately left her in that state.
Yeah.
That's the only other.
Which is worse.
That's what I was going to say.
They must have seen her and decided to leave her.
That many people, though, I feel like one negligent, awful staff member, but all of them leaving her.
All of them.
I mean, God, that would be horrific.
I just wonder if they may have, I mean, I don't know who these people are, but they may have possibly like enjoyed it or something. Like they're watching it and being like,
God.
Because we know that people like police officers and things like that, there have been people like that who are sadistic and I would argue psychopathic. Exactly, with that kind of stuff. And so I wonder if they can legally say we checked, but by check they mean they saw and didn't care enough to do anything.
That'd be so bad.
But then they have to be accountable to someone, don't they? So I'm hoping that the right thing will be done and justice will be served, because this is just abhorrent, actually.
I think, Karen, you're right. To even try and defend this is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
At 8:15, another prison officer said they checked and they didn't notice anything untoward. At 8:21, how many minutes is that? 7 more minutes? 2 prisoners alert them to the amount of blood coming from her cell. Now, let's all respect ourselves here. You cannot defend that. You're like, just stop talking.
Exactly.
Just hold your hand up and say, we messed up. We were wrong. But this defense is nonsense.
It's ridiculous. I mean, there is no defense.
No, there is none.
And it would be
they're going to try.
Interesting to see what comes of this. I guess the flip side of it is, I wonder if people are looking, because the thing is, when you go to prison, or when a person goes to prison, you are paying, you're serving time for the crime that you have committed, right? But it means that you are not stripped of your human rights. You should still be fed, watered, whatever else you need to survive. Now, this is completely separate. So if people are looking at it like, well, she was in prison, whatever. No, that's not the issue.
We're not talking about being in South America, one of the prisons, in South America, where people run it like it's not, is it? It's not that.
No, it's not.
Exactly. So there's no excuses.
Literally none. But maybe in South America or another third world, in quote, country, they might have received more compassion.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think anywhere would have.
Exactly. That even if the services weren't available, other prisoners might have called for help, or maybe
the prisoners would have delivered the baby. One of those places,
exactly, or offered help. And the galling thing is, they actually took the counselling offered because they were traumatized, and no counselling was offered to Aisha's mum.
What? I just don't understand.
At this point, I'd be a bad word, me a curse. Me can't even no. But the fact that they took it. You go sit in front of a counsellor to talk about your trauma? Yours?
They didn't have any trauma. They didn't even see her.
The thing is, though, I think we're looking at it possibly from slightly the wrong angle, in that it's whoever is in charge of that prison, really, that's where the buck stops, isn't it? So who has allowed this to happen?
They've obviously become negligent, like one of those schools that needs to be shut down by Ofsted. They've become negligent for too long.
Yeah. The governor, or whatever they're called, I don't know what the terminology is, but they have allowed this to happen. Because to be fair, I mean, if they wanted to receive counselling because of the trauma they experienced, I'm not going to deny them that. But the fact that she wasn't offered any counselling is in itself ridiculous. I mean,
and it was their job to prevent that.
Is their job to protect her? Absolutely, that is their job.
They wouldn't have been traumatized if they had done their job properly and gotten her medical attention.
Exactly. And now she has post-traumatic stress, and they are claiming they also have post-traumatic stress. You earn that.
How do they have post-traumatic stress though? Because if they said if they said that they didn't see anything, didn't hear, they never heard about her giving birth, they never saw anything. Where exactly is the stress for them coming from then? They're shooting themselves in the foot then.
Are they saying that because they found her?
If they're so
when
stressed
they eventually found her, that's where that's the stress.
One person eventually found her.
Two prisoners.
Okay. So how the heck do everyone get offered? I'm sorry, but no, that makes no sense at all. They could not have PTSD.
No, they have something else.
And if they did, they can pay for it.
I'm right.
Yes. But even then, she's not even held in mind, even after this horrific trauma she went through, to spend 12 hours in a cell with her dead baby.
It's horrific.
Do you know what else the other thing that strikes me is that because she was living previously in a care home, is that right?
Yeah,
so she's a care leaver.
I think the other difficulty is that she doesn't have an advocate. She doesn't have anyone to fight for. She doesn't have, because you can imagine perhaps somebody else who has that strong family network, that possibly wouldn't have been allowed to happen because she would have had an advocate. She'd have had, people in her corner. But I think this is
against
really, absolutely.
They were going to remove the baby at birth. I don't know why that's even relevant here. And to say she did not consistently engage with maternity services is also irrelevant.
Exactly.
What's that got to do with anything?
No.
Yeah. And I wonder if in different circumstances, people would even care about like if you strip away the setting of it, and it was a random 18-year-old giving birth on their own, calling for help and no one helping them. I wonder if they'd be a bit more compassionate and really think about it, because that seems like trying to defend themselves. But she didn't deserve that. Nothing. I think almost nothing she could have done means that she deserved that, because giving birth is traumatizing in and of itself. Then the trauma of losing your child.
That's right.
And then I imagine there must have been points where she thought, I might die from this, because people can die in childbirth, even at hospitals.
100%. 100%, absolutely.
Yeah, it's scary.
I wonder if there was, I have no idea, but it's a possibility that it was quite deliberate, because when it says that she didn't engage in anything, are they trying to say then she didn't engage in anything? She wasn't liked, is what they're trying to say. She didn't do what she was told.
I think she was
rebellious. She was
the way people think about prisoners and stuff. I think that's what it was as well. She was a prisoner. She had everything against her. She was a child in care. She was obviously a mother that was highly unstable and was going to have her baby removed. But there's reasons, there's reasons why people end up like they do. And I think pretty much every single person in prison, needs to be spoken to. Because
why does the baby have to be punished for that? The baby didn't do anything.
Exactly.
It's a really good point.
She had every right to have that baby safely.
Exactly.
Yes, she did.
It's an innocent right.
It's a human right.
Human rights, regardless of whether that baby was taken away. And like you said, Kay, it would be traumatizing enough for her to go through all that and then the baby is passed. But to have to stay in the cell alone, bleeding out, with a dead baby is just horrific, and to not be recognized and offered any kind of therapeutic support is just insane, isn't it? It just makes you so angry as a mother. It really does.
And then how is she meant to go back into the world again?
Absolutely.
Because isn't that what prison's supposed to be? Reformative of whatever.
Yeah.
She'll be worse off now, Aliyah. She'll be worse off now.
Yeah.
Her mental health will be worse. Any addictions will be worse. Her mental everything's going to be worse. And then she'll end up in prison again. It's just not fair, is it?
She will.
The way they've ruined her life is so unfair.
Yeah, it has ruined her life.
I'm flabbergasted. We already know the statistics for Black women in labor. More than 5 times more likely to die in labor than white women. That there's literally a charity called 1 in 5. So she is a Black girl. Already they should have known. Let's pay close attention to her maternal care in the prison system. But Sarah, you're spot on. Why are you imprisoning a 6 months pregnant young lady? Why? What were you hoping to achieve by putting her in prison in the first place at 6 months pregnant?
Actually, it's interesting because you both mentioned that there could have been alternative sort of not punishments, but alternative provisions, really. What were you thinking of?
I was thinking about some kind of day centre or some kind of thing where she was held responsible and she has to check in. Couldn't they put a tag on her? As far as I'm aware, she wasn't in for a serious crime like murder or something else like that. So seeing as it wasn't kind of well, all crimes are serious, I guess. But you know what I mean? I don't personally think something like, I don't know, holding up a shop at ransom or something. I don't know if it says there, Kay, why she was in prison, but I feel like
it doesn't.
No, I feel like it's something that they could have managed. 6 months pregnant, couldn't they have, or on tag? They put enough people in this country on tag for all sorts of rubbish.
Even if she did what was super heinous, that's not the punishment. The punishment is going to prison. That's where that stops. Even if she had like murdered someone or something, that's what the punishment is. You can't then go, I'm going to put extra punishment on top and make you suffer this horrific thing because I felt like it.
Couldn't you have had all these suspended sentences that they give people that probably shouldn't get suspended sentences?
Exactly.
Men. You know, couldn't they have just given her some kind of suspended sentence? Then she's had the baby. Okay, then the baby is looked after, and then she serves her time.
I think that is really interesting, and I would like to know what the crime was because, like you say, if it was it depends what they deem serious crime. I think the whole judicial system needs a bit of an overhaul.
Oh, it's rubbish. Absolute hack.
Yeah,
I was thinking, Karen. She was already in the care system. They could have put her in a foster placement for mother and baby until she gave birth. There was absolutely no need to imprison her. Even if you tagged her so that she couldn't leave the community you placed her in, she could have been looked after. She already used to the care system. There are foster carers who specialize in mother and baby placements.
That's right.
There was no need to put her in prison. But the fact that you did and didn't think, let me check her welfare, it's inhumane, and I don't know how people make sense of that in their heads and go to beds at night, thinking we did everything we could, because you should be done for murder.
That's probably why they're taking the therapy. They know what they did was wrong. It's probably guilt more than anything else. If they have consciences at all, then I imagine that's what they took the therapy for. It wasn't any PTSD. It was, oh my God, I did that to someone.
This is one client referral I would not take because I could not be impartial or empathic or non-judgmental.
Nor could I.
And I'd be raging.
So, me too.
Yeah, they wouldn't be coming to me with that.
No.
So I signed so this charity called We Level Up. Their Twitter handle is @we_level_up. They had almost like an open book you could sign and send a message to Aisha's mom. And I did, and she got 600 and something messages of support going into the inquest from the public. Now, this charity, they're feminist campaigners. They work in community for gender justice and bodily autonomy. So do give them a follow on Twitter. They're following this really closely. And at inquest.org, I think, is also another organization that supports minorities and people of color who need help with legalities. So
can you put that in the show notes, please, Kay? Because I will put it in the show notes. Mother as well.
Yeah, and there's a petition also to stop sending pregnant women to prison. That's on their page.
See, this reminds me of the episode that we had with Eileen, where she talked about the fact that she wasn't pregnant, but she had a daughter, and she talked about alternatives to put in mothers of young children and pregnant mothers in jail in the first place. And Aaliyah's right. How reformative is it actually?
It's just ridiculous. And it's when I looked more into this afternoon, I found another issue of another young girl, the same kind of age as Aisha's mother, that had a baby in a toilet in prison. I think that was HMP style. which has got horrible reputation anyway, had a baby in the toilet and it was stillborn. And it's just, I just don't understand. And I feel like just because they're in prison, they're looked down on as pieces of
they're not
rubbish.
animals, are they? Absolutely, yeah.
It's not fair. And it just seems like, I was surprised to see another one. I was like, oh my gosh, is this common? If this is common, we seriously have a serious problem here.
Yeah.
We do.
It would be interesting to see how many cases of a similar nature there are.
Yeah.
The occurrences of this kind there are.
At this particular prison, there was another young woman who died in custody, which has also been tagged onto the page on this, but I haven't read it. But this prison seems to have an issue looking after women in their care. And it's a women's prison, the largest in Europe. I mean, that's nothing to brag about. But okay, that's your flex. You're the largest women's prison in Europe, and this is the care you offer. I'm sending so much love and healing energy to Aisha's mom.
Definitely.
She's going to need it.
She is.
Whatever the outcome of this inquest is, her baby cannot come back. They will not bring her baby back. And I do hope she is getting therapy. But I'm going to follow the case closely because I want to see what support is out there for her.
Definitely.
And I'd like to actually see what comes of the inquest. That's what I'd like to know.
Lessons will be learned. We apologize unreservedly. Can I tell you the script already? Come on, you know it. This should not have happened, but it has, and we offer apologies, and lessons will be learned. And this is the script they spew out every single time. No lessons will be learned.
No.
Do you think no one will be held accountable? Do you not think?
Unlikely. I have no faith in the system that anyone is going to be held accountable.
Zero faith in it.
Maybe a slap on the wrist. You should do your better checks. Next time, open the door, go in the room, and if you see blood, do call for help.
We'll take you on a training course. You'll go on a day's training course about how to inspect a cell properly. Tick. That's what it'll be.
Or professional curiosity. Tick.
It will be like the driving.
Open your eyes.
It will be, yeah. It'll be like the speed awareness test I had to go on. You know what I mean? It'll be like that kind of thing.
I remember. I've done that. No, Karen, I don't think any justice will be served. Maybe there will be a financial award, but that would probably come from the jury at the inquest, not. You know what I mean? If they cared about her at all, they would have offered her therapy immediately.
Of course.
Trauma therapy, but they didn't. So, no, I have no hope.
Yeah, it's shocking.
That is really sad. So here we go, ladies. What in the world gets worse and worse?